Is imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Look out where you're going, punk. You know how to break your legs, huh? Like me to twist your head off. Now, I'm gonna tell you just one time. You stay away from my girl, you understand that? Huh? Look, I'm warning you. If I even catch you looking at her, I'm gonna tear you up so bad, your own mother won't recognize you. You dig?
Glazer, what's your problem?
Oh, no problem, Todd. No problem.
Yeah, when was the last time you won a personality contest, Glazer?
Welcome back to the Black Cat Shadow. I'm your host, Andy, podcasting from Kansas City, Missouri. And today I have a very special guest who has been in Academy Award-winning movies like Dances with Wolves and Unforgiven. And he's also been in Spider-Man, X-Files Fight the Future, and Sea of Love. And he's also appeared in numerous TV shows such as Miami Vice, the Friday the 13th TV series, Cop Rock, and War of the Worlds, and NYPD Blue, and Walker, Texas Ranger, and Lost. But as far as the horror community goes, he starred in a very popular, influential 80s horror movie called The Burning, and you all know him as Glazer. I want to welcome Larry Joshua. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on the show. All of us here on the podcast are big fans of your work, especially in The Burning. So, we just wanted to give our listeners a chance to hear from you and get to know you a little bit better.
That sounds great.
To start off with, share with your listeners how you got started in acting.
As with most things in my life, it started with romance. And I was in a band. So I was in bands long before I got into acting, and I was in a band playing at a bar. And I met a girl, and she wanted to be an actress, and she slowly turned me on to, the discipline of the theater and what it took. And although I was already performing, it's a completely different kind of performing at theater than, live stage, playing music. But I eventually started doing both. And I really came to love the storytelling of theater and eventually TV and film.
And so you mentioned you did some stage. Did you do some stage acting in New York?
Yes, I did. I worked with John Patrick Shanley. I've worked with Israel Horovitz. But I worked down at Joe Papp's Public Theater. And I did numerous plays off Broadway in New York in the mid to late 70s and early 80s.
Now, one thing I always notice with just about every character you play, you bring this really snappy wit and attitude to the character. Is that just from being born and raised in New York?
Part of it is. I think so. It's sort of a neighborhood thing I picked up growing up. I bring that with me wherever I go. Not so much anymore. I'm much more laid back now. But back then, it was very important to be quick and be snappy and to basically always proceed to the bottom line. So if somebody had something to say, you were ready to get to the bottom line of what might be the conflict or the situation, even if it wasn't a conflict, but what the situation was about, was have the bottom line. Oh, it's this. and be able to be sure that this was what it was. In other words, I'm telling you, that's what it is. So I guess I got that from the neighborhood in Queens, New York. Yeah, when I look back, I think you're right. I think a lot of it came from who I am, sort of like how I'm hot wired, but also from my neighborhood where I grew up.
Being a musician myself, I found it fascinating. I read that you were in a band. Are you? Can you tell us a little bit about that band, the bands that you've been in, and what your role had been in them?
Well, yes, I wanted to be a musician first before I became an actor, and it just didn't work out for any number of reasons. But let's see, my first band was a cover band at a high school, and we played at Holiday Inns and did cover music, just so people could sing along and dance and, be a party band. That broke up after a while. And then I got into a sort of like a punk sort of new wave band. We called ourselves the Rubbers, and we played at CBGB's and a couple of those downtown New York places, and screamed and yelled and did that for a while, and then that broke up, and then I started a blues band, which really is my overriding passion. I love blues music, so we did that for a while, and as I was doing the Rubbers and the at the time the Joshua Blues Band, I was still acting. My acting career was picking up. I was on a soap for a while, and then I started doing some plays downtown, and I don't know, I was constantly, rehearsing plays or, getting a couple of days work on a movie or a TV show in the beginning, and I started to realize that as much as I loved music, the acting was starting to pay my bills, and so little by little, I just started doing more and more of the acting. I mean, it wasn't like I had the choice. It was like I'd audition and I'd get the job. So it was like if I didn't get the job, I guess I would have kept thinking, all right, well, then it's going to be music. But I would audition, and inevitably, I was getting like 3 out of 10 gigs. Every time I'd get an audition, it was like I was close to 50-50. 3 out of 10 is a 300 hitter. That's Hall of Fame, and although I didn't do quite as good as, some other of my contemporaries, obviously, I did well enough that I was able to afford a life and not have to work 9 to 5. I mean, while I was playing music, I was working in restaurants in the kitchen, being a short order cook mostly. And because I wasn't good as a waiter, but I loved being in the kitchen and working the ways back there. And so, I'd do that and then play music at night and do that, play music at night. And then when the acting came in and I could give up my quote unquote day job, it was like, well, maybe I ought to pay more attention to this, and I did. And, then I got married and, and it was even more important to bring home money, and then, had kids. And so and then I would say by, I don't know, 82, I was pretty much full time acting, and I never stopped. I still play music, but it's just for my own enjoyment. It's just my own, and I played harmonica and I sang and I strummed and I played second lead, but I wasn't, we had to have a really good guitar player in the band. I was good to fill in but I was mostly up front. So we needed someone who could, really play music, play the leads and stuff. Like I said, I could fill in backup on it, but it was great. I mean, it was, as you know, playing music anything, acting too, but mostly music, which is my first love. Because you get into it, I mean, you really can. You can feel like you can almost lift off the ground with it. It's just, it's a great feeling, and I wish I had been able to make a living at it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely know that feeling. It's been a struggle, but it's always a fun time, and especially when you can connect with other people, in that band situation, everybody just kind of connects while they're playing music. It's a cool feeling.
It is, and like I said, you can feel like you lift off the ground a little bit, and it's a magical feeling. But I needed to pay bills, I needed to eat, and it didn't work. It's whatever. No regrets though.
Yeah, definitely. So with your musical background, do you think that influenced you to be on the show Cop Rock?
Oh, let me tell you that. Well, first of all, my musical background helped me learn my lines because for a long time, going back to your previous question about, the way I acted, I remember in the early goings, I would learn my lines like I was learning lyrics to a song, and I would learn my lines in a certain rhythm, and that's how I would learn my lines in the beginning. By 1990, when Cop Rock came around, I thought that I had stumbled into what's the word? I want serendipity, kismet, sort of like, oh my God, my two worlds are coming together. My love for music and acting, it's like I'm going to get to do both. And unfortunately, again, like with the music itself, it didn't work. And although it was fabulous to work with those people, and it was magical to work with those people, the show didn't. The public did. It's funny. We got 9 million people a week to watch that show. The network wanted between 12 and 15, and I thought to myself, my God, if you started a business and you said, listen, 9 million people are going to come into your store every week, you'd think, oh my God, that's like insane. But 9 million did not cover the expense of the show. And so, yeah, dig it. That's why, in a lot of ways, what you're doing is really the future. Because, you see, when you do TV, every minute is so friggin' expensive that you can't do if it doesn't pay to do it right away, you got to cut it. And you can't do long form ideas. Because every minute it's worth hundreds of dollars. So it's all, even the people that are trying to do intelligent conversations on TV, they can't do it because it's all scripted this can only last, a segment can only last, it's like, it can only last a couple of minutes, then you got to go to commercial. So get it in, say it, cut him off, make sure he says this so we can get a sound bite, and then you got to go. I mean, it's so crazy. And that's why what you're doing and what people do on the internet, is really the way it goes, because this production cost is almost zero. I mean, I don't do what you do, but I'm assuming your production cost is almost zero.
Yeah, it's a pretty low overhead to get into the podcasting, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a network, you'd be talking millions of dollars. It's crazy, right?
It's crazy, yeah, and it's unfortunate that, I mean, it is a business and they have a bottom line, and
yeah,
that's the world we live in.
No doubt. No, complaints, but being able to, I don't even want to say call it out because I'm not calling it out, but being able to define it or recognize it or just recognize what it is, to me is helpful. I'm not a revolutionary. I'm not looking to change anything.
As I said earlier, the horror community, we all know you for, your role as Glazer in The Burning. So how did you get involved in that movie?
Let's see. How did I get that? The casting woman, it was, early on in my career. It was actually wasn't my first job, but it was my first major job. And the casting director was Joy Todd. and she called me in, and I auditioned for Tony Malum. And like I said, I had been to acting school starting in 78, 77, 78, something like that. And this was now, I think, 1980. So I was still fresh on the street in terms of being an actor. And so, I walked in and I don't know, I guess I was, obnoxious enough and I got the part and I was thrilled. I was really thrilled to get it because I saw it as, I didn't think it would amount to anything, but I thought this is a great way to cut my teeth, in film. And Tony Malum was a true gent. I mean, he really loved actors, and it mattered to him, and that really was a very good experience. Plus, I met some really wonderful people. I met Jason Alexander there, and Holly Hunter there, and Fisher Stevens there, and a few others, Ned Eisenberg and Leah Ayres. They were just a really good bunch of people, and Shelley Bruce, and it was a great experience. It was fun.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, how long did you guys spend filming that movie? Was that on a pretty tight schedule?
It was on a tight schedule and a tight budget. There was not a lot of money. Tom Savini was the makeup man. So I mean, this was one of the first movies, if not the first movie, that Harvey Weinstein produced, and he got good Wakeman to do the music, and he got Savini to do the makeup. And he was also fabulous to work with, because when he had to make the hedging shears, that whole thing to go through my neck, to make that a piece of apparatus, I don't know what to call it, makeup perhaps, it took a long time. And, I sat with him in his shop, and he was fascinating guy to just listen to and watch work. And again, I was still new to the business, so everything I saw and everything I did was for the first time. So of course, that in and of itself is just very exciting when everything is new, for the first time. So I really enjoyed it. I had a great experience with those people. As a matter of fact, I felt that way about my entire acting career. Met a lot of cool people, and I really had a passion for it.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at your filmography, I mean, yeah, you've been in lots of really great movies, influential movies. As far as on the Burning, did they keep the appearance, like Cropsy's appearance, a secret from you guys, or did you know what the killer was going to look like while you were filming?
I did not know. Matter of fact, I never even saw Lou on the set. Yeah, so I did not know. I think they might have had some drawn up pictures. I think that, sort of like what they call storyboarding. But no, I never saw Lou, and I had no idea. When I got killed, it was Tom Savini who was killing me. Yeah, and we did that scene. It took all day. I mean, it really took all day to do that scene. It was gruesome. Yeah,
definitely. It's one of the, as far as special effects goes, it's one of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah.
So, the Cropsy legend, it's kind of a well-known legend now, but back in that day, was that like an urban legend or a ghost story that was passed around in that area?
Yes, it was. Definitely was. And everyone knew it. And I never went to, I went camping as a kid, but I never went to, I think I went to a sleepaway camp for 1 year. I think I was 11 or 12 when my parents sent me. I vaguely remember that. But, Yes, that walking in the woods in upstate New York, which is, where I was from. I mean, I'm from New York City, but we used to go camping in upstate New York. Being in the woods at night is definitely scary. So it was all set up for those kinds of ghost stories. And people, running around through campsites at night screaming, just to, mess with you. People would be running and screaming through your campsite at night. You'd be like, what the fuck, man? Yeah, that stuff was going on. But yeah, that is an urban legend. And Harvey, and I forget the other person who wrote it with him, they picked up on it. And like I said, that was one of, if not the first, one of Harvey's first productions.
So was there, and you mentioned that you guys didn't think it would really amount to anything, but was there any kind of pressure, the year before Friday the 13th had come out, was there any pressure for this to be the next Friday the 13th?
Well, I think there was pressure on Harvey and them. I mean, because they laid out the money. They wanted to make their money back, and they were hoping that, there would be profits and they would get little kudos. And no, I never concerned myself with the success of a project. I always just thought about doing the work, and because you don't know. I mean, even with Dances with Wolves, I mean, I figured, I don't know if this is going to be even any good. I loved the script. I loved working with Kevin, and the cast was great. But you don't know if, I've never been on, I can't think of one project I've been on where I went, this is going to be a hit. This is, no doubt, this is a hit. I mean, even working with Al Pacino on Sea of Love, I mean, I figured, all right, we'll do our best, see what happens. But I've never read anything, as far as a script that's been given to me and went, oh my God, this is great. It's going to be a huge hit. I've read stuff where I go, I love this story. I love the character I'm going to play. I love this character that someone else is going to play. And this is good enough for me. Like I said, I fall in love with the storytelling. The telling of the story. That's why, writing is, you get good writing, you almost don't have to act. You just have to walk on the words, and the whole thing happens for you, But, no, I didn't. If there was pressure for that to be the next Friday the 13th, I was not, to answer your question, I was not aware of it. And I don't know how anybody else felt, because I never talk about those things.
So I think I read somewhere that your favorite role you've ever done was your role in Dances with Wolves. Can you tell us why that is? Well,
going back to the woods things, when I was a kid and we would go camping in upstate New York, we always used to like to play soldiers, and we'd, choose up teams, and we'd either throw rocks at each other or whatever. And, if the rock hit you, obviously you were dead. But if it even came close to you and you said, that was a grenade, man, you'd be dead. So we loved to play that game. That was a fun game to play as kids. And the other one was Cowboys and Indians. Loved to play Cowboys and Indians. So when I got to do Dances with Wolves, not only did I love the script, but I got to be in a Western. And I thought, wow, a Western. That is like classic, and I knew that it was going to be a period piece. It wasn't going to be a contemporary urban landscape. It was going to be a period piece, and I was going to go out to the Dakotas and into Montana, places where I would never go, but I was up there, and I thought, this is great. I'm going to be in a real cowboy and Indian movie. And cowboy and Indian movies, westerns, I should call them. Really, forget cowboy and Indian. That's really not a cool way. To be in a western was really special to me. And westerns in, what was that, 89, 90, they were not popular at all. I mean, no one was making westerns anymore. And I figured, all right, we'll do a western. I met Kevin. We hit it off right away. Kevin was staying in, if I can digress for a minute, Kevin was staying at the Park Regency Hotel on Park Avenue in Manhattan. And the casting woman was Elizabeth Lustig, who passed away. She got great lady. Anyway, so I had met her, and she said, okay, I'm going to bring you in to meet Kevin. So I go to see Kevin at the Park Regency Hotel on Park Avenue on a cold day. And I walk into the hotel, and it's Park Avenue. It's nice, you know. And I hit the elevator button, and I'm waiting for the elevator to come down. And I got my nose. I want to get in. I want to get out. I got other things I want to do. So I got my nose practically up against the elevator doors. And as they open, on the other side of those elevator doors, practically with his nose to the elevator, I am standing face to face with my all-time childhood idol. All time. Bigger than anybody. The person standing in front of me was Mickey Mantle. I became a teenage girl. I started screaming at the top of my lungs, oh my God, it's Mickey Mantle. And I didn't do it just once. I did it a number of times in a row. Oh my God, it's Mickey Mantle. Oh my God, it's Mickey Mantle. Oh my God, everybody, look who's here. This is Mickey Mantle. And I'm doing it at the top of my lungs. Mickey Mantle looked at me, and he turns bright red. Because I'm standing right in front of him. He turns bright red. He looks at me and just sort of nods like, yep, I'm Mickey Mantle. And at that moment, he walked away. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, what an idiot. I didn't ask him for his autograph or anything. I just screamed like a friggin' girl screaming at the Beatles or something, you know. I get in the elevator, and I go up, I see Kevin, we talk about the script, we talk about this, and I say to him, you know what happened to me on the way up there? I saw Mickey Mantle. And, you know, Kevin loves baseball. And we had a great conversation about baseball. And, of course, at the end, he said, oh, you know, we ought to audition this scene. I said, oh, yeah, let's do that. You know, because we digressed. We talked about the script. I told him about Mantle. He goes, well, let's work on this scene together. And we worked on the scene, and I was very grateful that for that audition because, like I said, Elizabeth Lustig, who passed away, she was killed in a car accident, and she was fabulous casting person. And Kevin was great to work with, and we became very friendly on that shoot. I won't say that we're friends. We're really good acquaintances, but we were friends on that shoot, and he was wonderful to work with. And it was his movie, and so that was my favorite thing because they're out on the prairie in South Dakota, and it looks, and you can imagine it looks the way it looked, you know, way back in Lewis and Clark, and now. They've erected this Indian village, Native American Indian village out there on the prairie. And I'm standing, on the set behind the camera, and I'm just looking out onto this scene that's going to be filmed, this Indian village. And it's like, shit, man, I feel like I'm being transported back in time. And that's what made it so special, because everywhere I looked, people were in, period costumes. I was in a period costume, and it was there was buffalo out there, and everybody was cool. I mean, everybody was cool, but there was something that was just very magical about it. I mean, I felt that way also about doing a movie called Midnight Clear with Ethan Hawke, where we were up in the mountains in the snow, and it was a movie. It didn't do that well, I don't think, although I liked the movie, Midnight Clear. It was about the beginnings of the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And everything there was also sort of, period piece. And everywhere you looked, you saw, World War II set dressing. So doing a period piece is really exciting, as far as for me anyway. I mean, I really, because you do get, once you let your imagination go, you really, you're in that time, you're in that period, and it's a special feeling.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, definitely we'll have to track down the Midnight Clear and check that out, because that sounds very interesting.
That was Gary Sinise was in that. Peter Berg was in that. Ethan Hawke was in it. There's a couple of guys I think that went on to do very well for themselves.
So I think I also saw that you were trying to do some writing of your own.
Yes, I am trying to do some writing of my own. I'm sort of not so interested in being in front of the camera anymore. So I'm working on 2 projects, and I can see why writing is such a difficult thing to do. And both of these things I'm working on, I'm collaborating, and that takes a lot of things into account, because everybody's got different schedules and things that come up for them, and so you got to take breaks. But yeah, writing is it's a big challenge, and but I'm looking forward to it, because one project I would say I'm 3/4 of the way done with, and the other project I'm still in the early stages of gathering material and ideas. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't know what my chances are, but everyone's so far being very positive about the ideas, and so if I can pull them off, maybe.
As anything you can share about the projects, or is something you want to kind of keep under the vest for now?
Yeah, I think it's best. Better not talk about it. I don't want to jinx it.
So, I don't know, like looking back on your career, what would you say is the biggest thing you learned about yourself that came from acting?
That's a very interesting question. I learned that, I'm capable of many things, none of which I knew about. I didn't know that I could affect people the way you do in storytelling, either on stage or on film or TV. I wasn't aware that I could make a living doing it. I mean, that was not a far-gone conclusion, that I would, be able to make any money doing it. At the time, I mean, in the late 70s, early 80s, I mean, there was no internet or anything. So, it meant getting a job in an office or something, or something like that. So to me, it was like, I didn't want that in my life. So I guess determination was a big part of it. Once you have a dream about something, to be able to realize, to come up with a plan about how you're going to get there. I mean, it's great to have a dream, because it's great to have a dream, but you got to have the practical side that says, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to sacrifice other things that aren't going to get me to where I want to go. And that's, I think, now that I'm talking through it, I think that was the biggest thing I had to learn. I had to learn that I had to let certain things go in order to get myself where I wanted to get to. And I didn't know I was capable of that. I didn't know that I was capable of sacrifice. And maybe that word's too strong, but maybe a better word would be I had to make certain decisions. And by making a decision, you do cut other things out, because I decide this is my aim, this is my goal to get to my dream. So if my aim is to do this, then certain things that are not in my scope, my sight, my lane, whatever you want to call it, I got to let go. I got to let those things go. I didn't know that I would be capable of that kind of making it even more general, that kind of discipline. Because although people in show business can live a very freewheeling life, or however you want to call it, to really get to where you want to go, and not burn up and not just be the moth by the flame, you really have to make decisions. You have to have a certain amount of self-discipline. Otherwise, you're going to go off the rails. And a lot of people do. And that's okay, because hopefully they can come back. But to get there, and it could be that way with, I want to be a lawyer, I want to open my own business, whatever it is, you got to be able to focus your aim. And I think and I didn't go to a big acting school. I didn't go to Yale. I didn't go to Carnegie Mellon. I didn't go to Juilliard. I sort of took, because I had to work. So, I took little acting classes where I could. And eventually I figured out how it worked and that I could do it, and I was good enough. And like I said in the beginning, I had a girlfriend who was very smart, and she helped me understand what I needed to do. I figured out a way to make it work, and I figured out what I needed to do and what I needed to let go of. And that meant certain parts of myself I let go of. I had to let go of certain things about myself that, and also, certain things about how I was going to live from now on. Because being a musician, it was all about the night. I'd work in the day, and then at night, and I'd be out all night. And then as an actor, it was almost the exact opposite. Auditions were during the day. So, I had to get up in the morning and have myself together. I couldn't get up at 2 and 3 in the afternoon and go, all right, man, whatever. So if I wanted to do this, it was I had to straighten up and fly right, and it meant that, I get up in the morning and I conduct myself differently. Didn't mean I was, I became a goody-goody or anything. It just meant I had to find a way to be, again, I use a very simple word, disciplined or focused, or make sure that, I'm on, not on point. I can't find the right word I want, but I just kept thinking, this is what I want. And then what are you going to do to get to, what are you doing that is moving this whole dream forward? Because I've seen a lot of people back then, whether they were musicians or they wanted to be dancers. And, I knew people that wanted to be in the New York Ballet, and it was all great. They all had talent, but not everybody knew how to live the life. And that was the key I came to see. Because to live a life of an actor or a musician, they're different. But, if you really want to be a musician, are you going to be a songwriter? Well, if you're going to be a songwriter, it means you got to write every day. Got to make a friggin' attempt every day. And so if you want to be an actor and you're going to you have an audition at 11:30 in the morning, well, staying up till 3 o'clock may work for a while. It may work, just never go to sleep and walk in, strung out, because sometimes you can make it work for your character. But in the long run, that's not going to work for you. So figuring out how to live the life of your chosen profession was really the thing, because I didn't go to college. I was happy to get out of high school. I got a really good number in the lottery system that they had for the Vietnam War, so I wasn't going to get drafted. And I was open. They could have had me because I didn't go to, I wasn't going to college, and so they could have had me, but I lucked out. And so I was just roaming around at 18, 19 years old, and it took me 5 years or more to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And I was an undisciplined person, so I think picking something, in this case acting, it could have been, I wanted to start my own sandwich shop or something. You had to be disciplined. So I guess bottom line is I had to figure out what I needed to do to move my dream forward and make the decisions that would put me going forward. And by making those decisions, certain things were left behind. And it was like I was cutting away certain things and building something else. But I loved it. The art of acting, the art of getting inside the character, the art of reading some of the great literature, especially when you're talking about plays, because screenwriting isn't literature. But you read Ibsen or Chekhov, Shakespeare, or any great play. Sam Shepard. I did a few of those plays, and that's a literature, and you create a world, and you go into that world, and that is very exciting. It's a very exciting experience because you learn about yourself. You think about, well, what would I do in this situation? I mean, these are always, every situation in a play or a movie or whatever, it is a magnified situation. It's bigger in some ways. It's bigger than life, or perhaps it is bigger than life. And so you got to deal with that, and you got to question yourself, and you got a director and other actors who you're playing across of, and you go in and you go, well, my character, I'm going to try this. And you try something to see how that is. And the director says, I don't know, let's work with that for a little while. Let's explore that. The other actor or actress, says, well, when you do that, it makes me... And then this whole sort of exchange of ideas, this metaphorical place of ideas comes to life. And it's very exciting. And you do get to learn a lot about yourself, and you do get to learn a lot about human nature. And it's cathartic in many ways. There are two sides. There's the practical side of just, and a lot of times, when I was acting out there, I mean, it was amazing, but sometimes it really seemed, and it was more important that you got the job, that you actually were able to say, I booked it, I got that job, than actually how you did on the job. It was almost, in a practical sense, it was like, oh, Larry booked that job. And the word would go out, oh, so-and-so booked that job. Oh, okay. And you would hear about people booking jobs for that because, there would be 50 to 100 actors going up for every part. So eventually the word got out, who got that? And so it was almost more important to say, I got the job than, well, how'd you do? Well, no one seemed to really think about that. It was kind of interesting. So there was a practical side to it, is what I'm saying. And because I knew music and I could get into the lyrics of a song and sing the song, and feel the lift off of the band when it was in a good, cool groove, or just rocking, someone was shredding, and you could look out and people were having a great time, and you were having a great time. There's the practical side of rehearsing that song in someone's, garage or basement, and then the day you're out there on the stage at the, at the Holiday Inn in Jersey, and people are having a great time. The bartender knows your name, and it's like everything seems magical. But there's that practical end to it. You had to show up to rehearse that day, or days you didn't want to. There's a certain dedication. That, and I'm sure you know about it. I mean, you're doing this. I mean, you're dedicated to doing this. I'm sure you make sacrifices yourself just to do what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to, like you said, realize your dream and, make a plan for how to achieve that dream. That's definitely, what you got to do. And, it's, the way you explain it there is definitely, it's great to, hear your experience. And I know other people out there can learn from it and follow their own dreams. So, yeah, Larry, I just want to thank you once again for coming on the show. It's been an honor to have you on today.
Oh, my pleasure, man. I'm very humble about you asking about, my experience. I very grateful for the time.
And as for all of us here at the Black Cat Shadow, we certainly want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. And also, coming up in the month of October, we will be focusing on Halloween. We'll be doing more movie review episodes in October. We'll be reviewing Halloween-themed movies. There's not necessarily any of the Halloween movies in the Halloween franchise, but it's going to be movies that make us feel like it's Halloween. Movies that get us in the perfect mood for Halloween. So we're going to put out a few episodes of those, and we're going to review a selection of movies every episode. So definitely stay tuned for those coming up next month. And we also have part 2 of our Universal Monsters crossover event, where here at the Black Cat Shadow, we will be covering Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. It's the sequel to The Wolfman. And so that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be me and Dave, so definitely stay tuned for that next month, as well as the next episode this month with the random interview. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's a really cool guest. If you'd like to keep up with what's going on here at the Black Cat Shadow, you can find us on social media on Facebook and Horror Amino, as well as on Twitter. And also, most of our episodes have been put up on YouTube, so you can definitely check those out there. And you can go to our website at www.blackcatshadow.com, where you'll find all of our past episodes that you can listen to whenever you'd like, and the links to download them on the app of your choice. And if you'd like to send us an email, you can do that at blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. So that'll do it for us. That'll do it for this episode. So remember, guys, to take a closer look at the world around you, and you may just find that it is stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat Shadow.